Hello. Oh, I updated the title. Hello, everyone. Hopefully the title is right. Hello, hello. We'll just hang out here for a little bit while people get going. All right, hopefully it looks okay. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully the fan isn't too loud. Hopefully I'm not too sweaty. We'll get this camera tweaked a little bit too, but. All right, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, Beata. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, I'll start saying hello to folks as I see you. Hopefully we're gonna get a number of folks to hang out with us today. I think we've got plenty to talk about. Hopefully it's not too echoey. All right, I'll do one more minute. One more minute and then we'll get going. Hello, David. If you want to join the Discord, you can go to adafru.it/discord. That's what the middle box here is. Happy Friday, Foamy Guy. Thanks for doing last week. I really appreciate it. David says I'm early. I'm early. Yeah, I mean I'm on time. I clicked it like 2 minutes early just to give me some chance. Quidman16 says, show us the new office, Scott. I won't move the camera, but I can talk about it, I guess. Is this Discord says, all the boxes, so many boxes. David says, hello. Yeah, lots of boxes. I'm even like sitting in front of most of them. Hi, Yanni, just in time. I have another camera here that was former cat cam, but for some reason it's not showing up. It might not be plugged into the computer, we'll see. So it'll be a little hard to like show more than what I've got behind me. But. All right, let's get going. Hello everyone, my name is Scott and I work for Adafruit on CircuitPython. If you don't know what those things are, Adafruit is an open source hardware and software company based out of New York City. I work remotely from Seattle. Hello Forrest and hello, or like, is this Discord says cat cam is best cam. Cat cam is no longer, unfortunately. I've since moved to an office that's outside the house and the cats are at the house still. And no, I did not set up a remote cat cam either, sorry. So Adafruit does open source hardware and software. I work for them on the software side mostly. And CircuitPython is a version of MicroPython or Python designed for tiny, inexpensive microcontrollers. They're little tiny computers that are like all kind of self-contained and pretty inexpensive to get into, which is great. So CircuitPython makes it really, really easy to just get right into programming and stuff. And I just realized my audio is still coming out my speakers. This is a nice thing about working in an office now. I can play things out there. Forrest asks, how are you feeling today? Pretty good, a little hot. It is 82.5 degrees Fahrenheit in here, which is like, it's been 80 most of the day, but it's the afternoon. There's a window here. In the new office, it's south facing, which in Seattle means that it gets a lot of sun. I do have a fan in the window that's just off camera there, trying to blow cooler air in here, but it doesn't do a great job at cooling it down. I've ordered or told somebody on OfferUp that I will buy their AC, so hopefully next week I will have sorry, I got a Slack message. So next week I should have an AC, and hopefully it'll be not quite so hot in here, which will be cool. So I'm going to do that after I pick Ari up from daycare. Hello, Dishipu. Yeah, so if you want to support me and this office space that I've got, you can go to adafruit.com and purchase stuff there. There's all sorts of different hardware that you can buy from Adafruit, whatever suits your fancy, whatever projects you have in mind. That's a great place to get started and take a look and see what we have to offer. So that is it for kind of the getting started side of things. David says it's about 100 degrees in inland Southern California. That sounds way too hot for me, and I would definitely already have AC if that were the case. But I think outside it's more like 70. But this room is like, I worked here kind of like all this week, and because I moved a lot over the last long weekend, and it's been like hovering right around 80 or up to 80, 82, 83, 84, which is a little too hot. So yeah, getting an AC, which should be nice. There's this is a big 4-story building that has a bunch of different like small business spaces. So there's a lot of like haircut folks and nails folks and therapists and all sorts of, there's a like tattoo person, a hair person. So it's pretty neat. It's just a bunch of small businesses in this building. And the south and the west facing that get the most sun, they also have AC outlets, which is great. So I'll be able to have an AC just like right next to me here, and it'll be able to shoot outside, shoot the hot air outside without the window even being open. So that'll be good. I pretty much moved everything. So if this is your first time, welcome. I've been doing these deep dives since kind of the start of the pandemic, with a big hiatus as I had my first kiddo. And thanks as always to Foamy Guy for filling in on deep dives for me. So I used to work from home. We had a spare bedroom, and we had been thinking about making more space in the house by moving my office out. And I found this space here, and it fit kind of like all the requirements. I've got fiber internet, similar to what we had at home. Not super expensive business class, but rather small business fiber that's actually cheaper than the version. It's the same thing that I have at home, except it's a cheaper version of it, which is a little weird. Well, we'll see, because it's not a fixed price. Anyway, yeah, so we're on fiber, so hopefully streaming will be good. That was one of the requirements for the spaces I was looking at. I did look at a number of others, and this is kind of the one I settled on. And the one downside of this space is that they don't want me to solder in this space. So I did get a portable soldering iron, and I'm also going to get to or go to a maker space here in Seattle that I might join as well. So that would be cool. I guess that's a bit of the office update. So these things were kind of off camera before, but this is like an IKEA 2x4 bookshelf. And then I have this louvered Acro Mills. DCD says, will you be discussing your new filing system? Yeah, that's where we're going with this. So these are like Acro Mills bins, and they kind of hook on this gray panel there that you can see. And I had the setup in the old office before, but you could not see it before me before. But when thinking about what to put behind me, I thought like that could be kind of neat, especially if I have to go get something out. And then this over here is like a kind of a wire storage rack system where I've got these big plastic bins full of stuff. And it's not all like strictly like Adafruit related stuff, but I have one giant box of cables, for example. but it's like all computer stuff, right? So I do computer support stuff, and it's all computer related stuff here. So that's kind of what you can see, and then you can also see the bottom of this new desk. So I have a second desk to me now. That is a new addition. So I've got these boxes that I was going to talk about in a bit. I've got the PC byte thing here that you can't see, but I have the hover cam and the former cat cam here. So hopefully this is going to be where you can't see, but there will be a camera for, is kind of where the dev board that I'm working on will sit. Rather than it used to be like right in front of me between my keys and my hands and stuff. So my goal is to like kind of move the dev board stuff that I'm working on kind of out of my way, where it's a place that can kind of fit or stay and not be bumped or anything. So the other stuff with this space, so the space is 13 feet, a little bit over 13 feet by a little bit over 12 feet, which is about 170 square feet. Sorry, I don't know what it is in metric. And there's an in-wall heater, and the ceilings are like 9 feet tall, so there's like definitely room for like these shelves to get taller for storage space as well. Our plan is to bring like a carpet and a small couch kind of out over here. So I've got like this new desk is kind of splits the room in two, and so there will be like like more. I don't want to sit at my computer space. Like if I want to do stuff on my laptop, it'll be over there. But that's where I put a lot of the stuff as I moved it. So it's been a lot of like throwing everything on the storage bins and all that. And it's definitely a work in progress, but I got pretty much over everything off the floor or back into boxes so that I can start moving the carpet and the couch into the room, even though I'm not fully through organizing everything, which is going to be a long process. Any questions about the office space? It's a year lease, so you should see me here at least for a year. David says, after the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, we also get the distance in feet. Yeah, sorry, I'm an American, which doesn't, for some reason, we don't want to be like the rest of the world in terms of units. Hi, Isaac Ben. I don't know if we talked about it at all, but there was like a house in the lot outside the window here. They tore it down like the day that I was moving stuff in, and they're making it a parking lot, which is great. So I have a view kind of out over Salmon Bay, which is like well, I can't actually see the water, but I can kind of see out, which is great. So I have somewhat of a view. I can almost see, I can just barely see the top of the Space Needle from here. So the other thing I was thinking about instead of cat cam is I could actually put a camera up in the window. There is also like the main road is I'm a block off the main road, and there's a drawbridge, but there's a big tree. I don't know if we'd be able to see it. I don't know if we'd be able to see it from where I'm at. Okay, so that's office details. Tyeth says, so you've had your tray cardboard boxes for a short time. Any improvements / thoughts? Okay, so let's talk boxes. We talked office. So when I was moving, I was like, I really need hello, Adib. Hopefully I said that right. So the way that I was organizing my dev boards is if you watched the stream before, you know that I like to go on digikey and buy the latest dev boards as long as they're like within a certain price range, because my job usually, or a large part of my job is bringing CircuitPython to new chips, and And manufacturers will usually release a dev board for new chips, and they usually subsidize them as well. So like ST is really does a good job for like $20 to $40. You can buy a very pretty powerful, pretty good deal dev board for their new chipsets. So yeah. Hello Hams Labs, and I agree, Isaac Ben, Seattle is beautiful. I hope the new place works out great for you. Yeah, it's been really good so far. It's been really good. It will be interesting to see, because right now Ari, my child, is in daycare where we have to drive. So I've been doing a lot of like driving to daycare and parking here and then driving to get him. But the long-term goal, as in like next spring when he turns 2, is that I'll be able to walk. So I'll walk from here to his daycare, and then walk from home to daycare to here, and vice versa. So yeah. Hams Labs asks, are we going to have the cat cam even though you aren't in the same place? No, I don't plan on setting up a cat cam. Right now the cats are in the same like window in that room, but that room is going to be changing a lot, because there's I don't know if I mentioned it, but there's like a roof leak above it. And so I think what we're gonna have to do is like take a lot of the drywall off so that we can have somebody figure out what the problem with the roof is, and actually fix it. And then we'll have to redo all the drywall. So there's gonna be a lot happening in that room probably. So the cats will hopefully find another place in the house to spend a lot of their time. Yeah, so the way that I did dev kits was like a mix of these Acro Mills bins, and I also have like, I'm so backwards. These like smaller plastic bins, I've also got a bunch of dev kits in. And they're like coarsely separated by manufacturer. But if I need to find something, it's still very much like a dig through and figure out like what I'm looking for, which is not quite, and it's not quite what I want. It's a little hard to find everything, and it's also like pretty inefficient space-wise, especially if you leave things in the boxes or bags that they came with. So I went on a little bit of a tangent in my own life, researching better ways to store dev boards, right? Dev boards are typically pretty small, pretty flat. The first thing I was thinking about is like a flat file system. So there's these big cabinets you can get that have really shallow drawers, and they're really meant for like blueprints or art prints or something where you don't want to bend them, but you still want to store them flat. And I found one on Craigslist for like $500, and I put it into my like tentative layout of this space, and it was just a little big, and it was like, I don't really need that. But what I do need is like, I need a way to have a lot of shallow drawers. And another way to think about that is like, how much surface area are you getting out of a solution? So that, like every drawer has an area to it. And so the shallower the drawers, the more area you can fit in a particular height, so to speak, right? So let me just talk through what Tyeth's referring to. So there's this new product, this new thing coming out. I don't actually know the details, but Tyler, who has been working on it, asked us to work on it. So it's called Adafruit Playground.com. It uses your same Adafruit account, but just like the newsletter, it's at a different domain, which is interesting. So you'll see that some of us Adafruit folks have started testing it and posted. These are meant to be, from my understanding, these notes are meant to be kind of works in progress. Nothing as formal or supported as nothing as formal or as supported as a proper learn guide. But it uses a lot of the same like editor interfaces anyway. So Lamore Lidiata asked me to, like, I've been talking about these boxes because it's been kind of an obsession. So she suggested that I write these up. So here's a picture of my snacks and these cardboard boxes that I did. So I wrote up the story, but I didn't quite link to it. So yeah. So I was looking for flat file cabinets, and they're really expensive and they're really large. And then the other way to go is like crafting. Lots of crafting people get really detailed with how they want to store stuff. And there's this site, stampindstorage.com. You can see here they're used for like stamps, not postage stamps. And they have them labeled, and there are these nice shallow drawers, and they warn you that the 1-inch drawers don't have sides. And I thought it was interesting because they have two configurations. They have this standard configuration, but then also for the IKEA KALLAX, which is this like pretty iconic iconic bookshelf from IKEA. I actually have, and I learned this, I thought I had this, and then I moved it and I had to take it apart, and I realized I actually have the older version, and the older version has like thicker, like a thicker perimeter, but the cubbies themselves are the same dimensions, which is great. And they're super cheap. So here you can see that I have this 2x4 here, and it's $90, which is not too bad. And that's like a pretty optimal size for what you get, because you can see here that you get half the storage for $65. Hams Lab says that's a really good idea for board storage. I may need to mod my lab to add them. Let's just open this image. Hopefully there's nothing you're worried about. Yeah, so here you can see this is like the same steel shelving I've got. But I really didn't want to go plastic bin. One of the challenges with plastic bins is they don't always fit perfectly well. And then also it's a ton of plastic and they're not that cheap. So I saw this and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And I liked the idea of going down the rabbit hole of like, let's create something that fits in this KALLAX bookshelf, because the bookshelves are really cheap. And you can get them in different sizes and blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was really cool, and I was looking at, and I found this person on Etsy who does cardboard drawers. Cardboard drawers for the KALLAX. And they have this like outer, nice. I'm gonna load. Beata says, and plastic bins do not hold all that much weight. Yeah, well that's not really a requirement of mine, is how much weight it can hold. Because I'm not gonna, like dev boards are not that heavy. Although I'm going to use it for other stuff as well, but generally they're not that heavy. So we can see here that like this person is leaning into the drawer model, where they have kind of like the outer things to hold all the different drawers. And I was like, they turned their shop off actually since I looked at it, but you could buy a single drawer from them for like $3. $3 a drawer, which that still felt a little expensive to me. Now, if you look at the Stampin' Storage one, like if you actually pick if you do 10 single drawers in natural color, it's $140 US. So that's like $14 a drawer, right? Like $14, 140 divided by 10. And the footprint here is like, fits into the KALLAX. I like Mark's comment. It says, wait, we're not just throwing everything in a box and getting annoyed every time we can't find something? Oh, I've done that plenty too. Especially right now, I'm in that mode. Like, I had some boards set in drawers that were in black antistatic foam, and I just threw them in a box. So I've got a lot more organizing to do. Dave says maybe something modular that you could expand as required. Yeah, so I think that's why the KALLAX stuff is pretty nice. So right now I've got this like, it's not the KALLAX, but it's basically a KALLAX, which is like 2x4 cubbies. But for like 65 bucks, 60 bucks, I can buy like another 2x2. And I could fit like a 2x2 on top of my 2x4 and still be able to reach up tall. And I could fit another like on top of this wire shelving as well. So I've got like, you know, room for another 12 cubbies, kind of in the footprint that I've already got set up, for 60 bucks a piece. So that's like, of the shallowest drawers, you know, that's 40 drawers a piece. So yeah, I do feel like it is pretty modular. Beata says, and also stacking them 8 to 10 deep is okay if you're not going to touch the stuff for a while and get paused projects off the table. Yeah, so that is the other thing I do use these bins for, is like particular projects that I'm working on. Like I'll have like a Beely watch one, I'll have a keyboard one, I will have like project oriented containers as well. Anyway, so I kind of like, I really like this cardboard route because it's a sustainable material, so it's like, it's recycled cardboard. And when you're done with it, you can recycle it, but you can also hack it, right? So you can just write right on it. Like one thing I don't like about these bins is that they have like paper slips that I use to write what's in it. But like most of them, the paper slips have fallen off or they're out of date. And that's pretty annoying. So like being able to just take a Sharpie or a pen or pencil and just write on the thing would be really cool. And then of course, if they're cheap enough and you know they get trashed or something, you can just recycle them. If you want to put like black anti-static foam, you could totally just glue it to the bottom, right? Like the nice thing about it being really inexpensive and made of cardboard is you can kind of do what you want with it. So actually, let me paste this link. So I wrote all of this up if you want to follow along. The other piece of the puzzle that really kind of like sealed the deal is I found a company called ECOENCLOSE. No, that's not their front page. You know, their pitch is sustainable packaging, and they've got all of this stuff. But the cool thing that they have is, do I get it here? Custom packaging, custom shipping boxes. So shipping boxes are, you know, the things that you would get something from Amazon in or from some other. David says, consider earthquake bracing if you stack higher than your head. You don't want this stuff hitting you in the head. Totally, and I need to do that. Thank you for the reminder. Toddbot says, for labels, I like using Avery-style labels that I write on. Gives a nice high contrast background. Yeah, luckily, I think right now I'm far enough away from the shelves that even if we had an earthquake, I would be far from it. If I had an earthquake, I'd probably go under the desk here. That is something, one of the other buildings I was looking at is like a 100-plus-year-old building, and it's brick, and I just was like, I don't know, I think I do want, like, I think I would be willing to pay a little extra to be in a space that is more up to code. So this building actually that I'm in now is only like 5 years old. So hopefully it's up to the latest earthquake safety stuff. Anyway, so I found this ECOENCLOSE, and the really cool thing about it is that the minimum charge for all orders is $20. And so that means that, like, if you, I looked for a bunch of other custom box places, and they would have minimums like 1,500 boxes. And I'm not going to do that, right? Like, I'm not going to, I don't care how much a box costs. If I buy 1,500 of them, I don't need 1,500 of them. So this was really cool to find. I mean, I just did a bunch of Googling and ended up here. And they originally, so like I was originally thinking, oh, tray, like tray is like the is like the drawers that I was looking at. And then I was like, okay, well, could I use like these pads to like make the outer thing to hold all the drawers? And I was like, wait. Like, the disadvantage of something like a drawer or a tray is that if you tip it, it'll fall out. And I was like, wait, why don't I just get a box and then I can stack the boxes, and then I don't need to worry about having something that holds drawers. I just stack boxes. So I ended up, the RSC and the FPF are like for different shapes, but I want something pizza box like. This is what people, when I post pictures, people have been responding with a pizza emoji, because they are kind of like pizza boxes. They were like really shallow but pretty big footprint. So I ordered 20 of what I think of it is this TL, which is a tab locking box. And let me just show you. So this is, they also have free samples. So I ordered 20 of what I knew would work. And then I ordered like 6 more samples on top of that, just to kind of like figure out the limitations. So that's what this stack of boxes here is all the samples. And this is all written up in the playground note that I talked about. Oh, DCD says, any pointers to a good source of anti-static foam mentioned earlier? I bought it off digikey. And let me just pull this off screen, and I'll find it in my orders. And once I find it in my orders, I can share the link with you. Although I got, when I ordered it, I made sure and got a thick one. But I think for the boxes, I didn't find anything. I searched for foam and I would search for static. Black? I don't know what would find it. No. What is another term for foam? Maybe I need to look for anti-static? No. Maybe this is a good for... Hisco has ESD safe foam. Sorry, yeah, I got it off digikey. I don't remember. I can find it later. Yeah, great search. That's what I'm thinking of. Hams Labs sent, have you thought about going to a pizzeria and seeing if you could just buy a few of their boxes? So the reason that I don't want pizza boxes, I do want them to be custom sized, because I want them to fit in this bookshelf. So they're not actually as big as pizza boxes. I want something, I know there's a Reddit here where it's things fitting perfectly. And so I wanted to get, kind of maximize the space in these cubbies by getting boxes that were designed to fit within them. So that's what this footprint is. So here is, so actually let me cover this first. So there's different types of boxes. The two I ordered, almost all of them are tab locking, but I did get one literature mailer, which has like a flap that tucks, the front flap tucks inside rather than the tabs. Strength is the cardboard itself, and then the dimensions. So I varied kind of like all three of these things in my samples. So here I have this. This is a box that I did that's taller than most of them. And what I've already had for pin header storage is these. They're like plastic bottles that we got during the pandemic with takeout cocktails. And I've actually like separated out, like these are all headers that are like single long, and it's labeled 1. So like they're different it's separated by header length. So here you can see, it's easier to see like the tab. So a tab locking box is, it's got a fold over here. So this is like extra wide. And then it's got flaps along the side that go inside the area. And then the tabs go kind of between two pieces of cardboard on each side, and that makes it harder for the top to come undone, basically. So the tab locking is that the friction here on the tab holds this front flap here and the top on, which is great. So this is a sample I got that is twice as tall as all the others, so it's 2 1/4 inches, where almost all the other ones I got were 1 1/8 inches. And all of these dimensions I'm talking about are based on here, which is the dimensions of the inside of the box. So one of the things that I had to be cautious of is I can't just plug in the same dimensions as the KALLAX cubbies, because I needed to account for the fact that like there's extra cardboard between the inside and the outside, and I don't know exactly how deep or how thick it is. So that was something that I was experimenting with these boxes. So this is the material I settled on. So this material is 32E, and they have a good video that I linked in the playground, but it's talking about the 32 is the strength of like the paper that it's made out of, and then the E is the fluting, which is like the wavy part of the cardboard. So you can kind of see it. Let's do product showcase. So here you can see like it's pretty thin fluting. That's E fluting, and it's a 1/16 of an inch. And again, sorry to my non-US folks that want to know about last time. Yeah, so that's one of them. I actually don't have spots for 2 stacks of boxes. I'll put it on my computer. Okay, so here's one, and they actually labeled them for me as well. So the samples got labeled. So this is a 23B. So it's both a different paper, and it's also a different fluting. So the fluting here is thicker than the E, so it's twice as thick. So when in terms of shipping, they say this is better for crushing. Fede2 says, "Did I get into craft hour?" Basically, we're talking cardboard right now. Sorry if you came for electronics, but we'll get there. This is all about storing electronics. And then this is 15 3/8 by 12 3/4 and a 1.5 high. And I decided that it tore kind of pretty much immediately here, and that's I think a function of the paper strength. And then it's also just like pretty fat and not dainty along these side edges. So for that reason, and I think also, like, even though this is the same inner dimensions as these other ones that fit, it doesn't actually fit in the bookshelf, which was the other thing I was testing. So if I did get it in this material, which I think is maybe a little cheaper, we can just, you basically want to go until your box price is over 20, and then that's the actual cost. So like if I switched materials here to the 23B, it went down 5 cents a box. So it is a little cheaper, but these dimensions do not work in the bookshelf because it's a much fatter box. It's a much fatter fluting. And the tabs that, maybe I could just kind of use this to show. So the way that you fold it is that there's these, this is the one you can see. So these sides, and then there's these tabs underneath, and you can see this tab is ripped off. So that's a function, I think, of the paper strength. And then that flips over and kind of tucks into there. And even though this box is 1.5 inches high, I think, and it's still, the tab still tore. So I'm not going to buy any more of these. Actually, when I was doing the write-up yesterday, I ordered more as well. So this, I think, is another sample. And this is the sample that is, so 13 and 3/8, this is 375, so that's 3/8. That is the depth of the bookshelf, and that's exactly what IKEA specs it at. But it's both open in the front and the back, so I don't really care if it hangs out a little bit. The 12.875, so that is 12 inches 3/8. That is the width that matters. That's the thing that's like not it. If it doesn't fit flat into the cubby. And this is the biggest. So this is 32E. This is a stronger material with the thinner fluting, and that's what I've settled on as like the best material. And this is the widest I could do that fits. So it fits pretty snug. The way that these go in is the tab actually goes to the left in the bookshelf. Let me just, I'll show you what I'm thinking of. Let me take my mic off for just a second and I'll demonstrate. So here, you can take it and slot it in, and then you can see here, like, this says SEMC0. I put these in earlier, and so I can open it up, and it's got dead boards on it. So the tab is on the left-hand side here. So that's the idea. Deshipu says, can't you just order a lot of pizzas? I mean, you could, and that would be delicious, but they wouldn't fit in the bookshelf. Unless your pizzas happen to be the right size. Yeah, David says there's other cardboard things we should talk about. Interesting. Yeah, Fetty2 says, oh, extra cool. So you're sorting the huge collection of micros. Yes, exactly. So I wanted something, you know, I could have a ton of them. They don't have to be completely full. And I can separate them out by like part family. I do have, like the IMX one I have is like all the IMX EVKs, like that's in one of them. But I also like this stack here is like ESP32, ESP32S2, S3, H2, C3, C6, like that's what all this stack is here. And I'll do the same thing for NRF, right? And as I find them, so FPGAs will get done that way. And I have one that's for USB cables, so like this is all A to C, like 3.0, A to C sort of thing. Yeah, Fetty2 says extra points for not doing it with plastic. Yeah, that was, I mean, cardboard, I don't need like the strength or rigidity of a plastic. And I always find giant plastic things break. Like they don't break completely, but you know, like handles and stuff will break and they're just not very pleasant to use. So the nice thing about these is like, they're under $2 a piece. And then, yeah. Yeah, so David says laser cutting your own cut board. You could do that. One thing, I don't like the smell of all things that are laser cut. But I have been looking at this makerspace and they have both CNC and laser cutting. So in theory, you could do that. But for $2 a box, like it's not worth it to me. I'd rather just order it, you know, compared to looking, you know, remember I'm coming from this like Stampin' storage where it's $140 for 10 drawers, where if it's $1.90, if it's $1.90 a drawer in cardboard, that's like $19, right? Like So I'm going from $140 for 10 to $19 for 10. So I'm willing to pay some money to just have it made for me. And I still have to fold all the boxes, which is non-trivial, but I managed to do it. Okay, let's go through the last samples just to show. I do talk about all of these a bit. So this one doesn't have a label, but it seems really thin. So I think I did get one sample where I was doing them as 1 as an 1/8, but this is just a single inch, I think. I think that's what this one is. It's the same E fluting and it's still the same strength. It's also possible that this is the one that doesn't fit. So I did get one that is like 13 inches in this critical direction. The bookshelf says it's 13¼ wide, but again, we're not accounting for like the layers of cardboard on this side and this side in that measurement. And the 13-inch one didn't fit. So I did try that as well. The 1 inch is just a little too short. The 1 1/8 is big enough that you can fit 10 of them in a cubby, which I thought was kind of a good metric. So this one here is, I think, the same dimensions, but it's the B flute again. This is a 32B. So this is the stronger paper, but with the B flute, and you can really see how much, like it's much thicker, and like these folds look chunkier, which also meant that even though this is the dimensions of the ones that fit with 32E, this one I don't think fits. And it's only 1 inch tall as well, so it's a little bit shorter than the other ones. So again, the B flutes were just not what I needed. Like they say, like sometimes you'll get like a little more structure in the middle, but we're not storing super heavy stuff. I did get one LM box, which is the flap tucked in. So here you can see that like the sides here are not, they don't tuck in like a tab lock box, and then you get this like one edge that goes in. It is not quite as tall as the other ones, but it is still 32E, and it still tore along the edge. One, because it's got these like, oh, I didn't even put the tabs in there. It's got these like super long and skinny tabs that go under here, and like 2 of them, or at least 1 of them, tore off immediately. I think I could put the dimensions in slightly differently so that the flap is oriented the other direction. But I think I'm happy enough with the tab lock boxes that's the way I'm going. You could do this, but it's just like it doesn't close as satisfying as the other one either. So I'm all about the tab lock boxes. So yeah, I did try that and decided that wasn't, the LM boxes are not interesting. Let's see what this last one is. This one might just, it feels like it's the E flute, and so this is the 13 wide one. So this is the 32E but 13 wide, and if I take off my mic again, we'll see it doesn't fit. Let me show you. Here, it doesn't quite fit. You can tilt it, but it doesn't sit flat. So 13 wide is too wide. All right, that is my box tour. Any questions about boxes? Well, so I added more details. Good night, Dave. Get an affordable solution to your storage requirements, Scott. I think I do. I think I found it, and I wrote it up so other people can do it too if they want. Foldable PCB box. Oh yeah, the label maker. I got it at Goodwill for 20 bucks. and it's like $100 off Amazon or something. Although the newer ones are all Bluetooth to your phone, I think. So I spent more just getting new tape for it and batteries for it. But it's been working well for this. And I do intend, I got a thicker tape, which is what's on the boxes, and I also got a thinner one to actually just label the boards themselves with like what MCU is on them. Because even though you can read it, it's like can be kind of painful to read it off there. So yeah, this was a Goodwill find. I was looking for that like toy that Phil and Lamore have been hacking to see if I could find a used one. Although I got a bunch of horse toys as well when I was there. NRF, Bluetooth, the label maker. I mean, I could. I'm happy to, like, I like this thing. You just like punch it in and print it out. Although the default is like, leaves a bunch of margin, which I totally get because they want you to buy more tape. But so yeah, that is my quests, and figuring out the time to do all the sorting and stuff is the challenge. But I ordered 20 more of the small boxes, and I ordered 8 kind of double height boxes as well. It was like $60 total, and then shipping is another like $13 or $14. Ships ground, and it took, I don't know how many days it took. But anyway, that's my box endeavor. If you want all the details, you can go to this adafruitplayground.com and find the write-up there and the pictures. And let me switch to desktop. So here you can see like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you can see here, this is the black antistatic foam, which I'll find. And then here's all the IMX EVKs in there as well. And then here's the generic setting page. They have a good video about the fluting. Here's the IKEA dimensions, and then here's the actual, as I typed it in, there, and then how to fold it. So yeah, that's Adafruit Playground. That's my deep dive into all the things I learned about cardboard boxes and IKEA bookshelves. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Like, I like the cardboard material. I've always admired boxes I like, so it's nice to have boxes that fit. Yeah, no cat to sit in them. I had somebody ask if they were cat compatible, and I'll have to bring these ones that are a little bit too big home and get some pictures of them in it. But I didn't put them together until I brought them here. All right. Well, that is my approach, and this bookshelf that you can see, it's diagonal against the wall right now, but I'm going to push it back into the corner, so you won't be able to see the boxes, at least in there in the long term. I'm trying to figure out if I can fit another bookshelf in there, which I think I can. All right, it's 83 in here. Did you by chance count how many boards in the collection? No, I have not. I have not even found all the boards. I've done some ST, but I still have a big, like most of that box that's behind my head that you can't see is full of ST boards. It's also got Sandy boards in it. And then I did all my ESP boards from them, I think, are there. But I haven't counted. It's a lot. Like this one that I had the picture of, that's the feather wings. Like, that's just like most of my feather wing collection. I have a similar thing full of feathers that I've got to find and put in a box too. So yeah, I think for like generally when I sort, I try to sort Adafruit stuff separately from like other manufacturers. So I think I'll have like a feather wings, a feathers. I have like these boxes will be great for storing displays. as well, which I kind of done already with this black anti-static foam in the drawers. But in the drawers, I had to like stack sets of anti-static foam over each other. Otherwise, I wasted a bunch of space in each drawer. So that's the nice thing about like getting the minimum height for these boxes is 1 inch. So I could add the 1/8 of an inch and basically not miss out on any boxes stacked in the cubby. So yeah, I have not collected how many boards I have. It's probably a lot. Do I really want to know? And how much money I've spent on them? Although the Adafruit ones I do get for free. All right, that is the first hour of deep dive. Any office or box questions before we move on to IDF 5 Kconfig stuff? I'm wishing I had that AC, but I'm gonna get it today. Is there somebody can help me with the Adafruit SPI flash SD card that is 512 megabytes. Generally, you want to ask questions about it in one of the help with channels, Fernando. So help with channel, maybe projects, or depending on what software you're using, there should be an appropriate channel for that. I've not used it myself, so I can't help you with that. David says, maybe we need a feature on circuitpython.org to create an inventory of the boards we have at home, and then there's a new firmware to test or bug section to the board. You could send a message or check who could help in testing it. I wouldn't want to be on that list because I have a lot of boards that I don't want to test on. But generally I am like, I'm working on ESP32S3, or now like pretty soon I'm going to be like, I want to try CircuitPython on the C6. So like, where's my C6 board or my H2 board? This will make it a lot easier to find those. And I noticed that they've merged in the start of support for the P4 into the IDF, which I'm pretty interested in too. Hello, love the factory. I don't know, I think with testing there's also a matter of like, we shouldn't actually put a lot of effort into boards that people don't use. So by doing testing ad hoc, you kind of inadvertently get this prioritization of like, you only test the things that people actually use. You're welcome, Fernando. Welcome, welcome. David says, sometimes it's faster to order a new board than to find the one I know I have somewhere. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to combat. And I generally can find what I'm looking for. One of the ones that was like most difficult, and I managed to find, was like a 1-wire temperature sensor, because it's like just a loose part. That was one of the things that was more difficult to find. Generally, like, dev boards are pretty well labeled and stuff, which is nice. All right, I'm hot, but let's talk IDF a little while. May not make it to 4, but that's okay. Yeah, Mark says, I have a tiny LCD screen I wanted to use. I know it is somewhere. Yeah, screens are also great. Like, flat storage is also great for a bunch of screens. I'll tell you, one of the toughest ones is like knowing what e-inks, what e-ink you have is really hard. Like they have markings on them, but I don't know of a place that'll actually tell you what the markings correlate to. And like they actually have driver chips on them, but the driver chips are like chip on glass, so they're not, as far as I can't see with the naked eye, like the labels for what the chip is. So yeah. E-inks are pretty tough. Yeah, P4 is RISC-V, C3, C2, and C6 are RISC-V as well, I believe. The C series is. which I think is like the way that people are going to inadvertently start using RISC-V cores, is with those C series. I don't think Espressif is doing any more Extensa cores past the S line. I think they've announced that. Okay. I was updating the bundle earlier. I don't need to do that. So what I've been working on is that we have this, so yeah, the P4 I don't even have. You can't actually get the P4 yet, but if you want RISC-V Espressif boards, the C3 and the C6 and the C2 I think are all RISC-V cores. And you should be able to get at least, I have C3s and C6s. I don't think I have a C2, but maybe I should pick one up. Anyway, so we have a bunch of boards, and we have these configs that are kind of independent. So we have the goal. So the ESP IDF uses Kconfig to configure settings before you're building the IDF code. And there's these files called kconfigs that define what the settings are and give you helpful information about what they are and what they depend on and what the defaults are. It's a thing that's inherited, or I think it was created for the Linux kernel. It's at least used by the Linux kernel. And what we try to do in CircuitPython is to factor out common settings across boards, so that like boards get like configurations, like similar boards, you know, like with the same ESP module, for example, they would get the same SDK or SDK config settings. Unfortunately, that's not really how the IDF expects you to use it. They really, I think, expect you to have separate kconfigs for every different board or project that you're doing, which makes it really hard for us to maintain. So what I'm looking at doing is adding a bunch of these default files, which have like a small set of settings, so that in the mpconfigboard.mk file, you just say some basic things like it's a C3, the flash is in dual mode at 80 megahertz and is 4 megabytes. And if you don't have PSRAM, then you wouldn't list it here either. Here you can see that both you have like flash and PSRAM. And then on top of that, you're adding this like other flash SDK config. So the idea being that we want to minimize the differences in the kconfig across boards. We do allow boards to say to override. So when we pass this kconfig into the build system, we give it a list, and the last in the list wins. So you can kind of like have things override other things. So what I'm trying to do is reorganize this stuff a little bit. These settings are new-ish. We used to use them just for flashing the flash, but now we're actually using them for the settings when CircuitPython is actually running, because I think a lot of boards are actually not running at the fastest flash and RAM settings that they could be, which is unfortunate to say the least. It basically means that we're leaving a bunch of performance on the table. You know, any time it needs to load something from flash or RAM, it just won't be loaded as fast as it could be given the hardware. So I've been trying to rework this. We have an updater script. So in the IDF, basically what you would do is you would say, sorry, this is a different branch or a different thing I'm working on. But you would basically do menuconfig, which I had my first experience with the Linux kernel. That's why I associate it with it. But Kconfig, I think, is designed for you to like browse this hierarchy and like set the settings you want for your individual project and all this stuff. And then it will write out the file. Now what we have here is this is the debug output for a script that we have that tries to write back these changes to the board's, either the board specific file or the like collection of files that set the settings. So the way that I like to look at what happened the easiest is just with this diff tool. So what is it changing versus what we have checked in already? So what board did we use? We did the S2 feather. So if we look here, we have the SDKconfig, and here's some stuff that ended up in the board config. And this is wrong. So maybe this is where we start in fixing it. So the idea being is that like what this file should have is any deviations from the standard CircuitPython settings. So it allows board makers to actually do specific settings. But there's like stuff here about like the coprocessor and the camera support that's just not right. Or at least it doesn't need to be in here. It should be able to go in. It should already be in like CircuitPython defaults. So it shouldn't have ended up in this boards thing. So we can see here, like here's the S2 settings. So these are all the things that are specific to an S2. Should end up in here. We could see like coprocessor enabled equals Y is here. So there's, it's unclear why, oh, I guess it's not in here. Coprocessor type is in here. Which maybe we don't even want. I don't know. And then we have separate settings for like PSRAM speed and PSRAM related settings. So the idea is that the CircuitPython build will mash these different default settings together to produce what we want. And then we need this update script that allows you to run menuconfig and then only put the things that you change from CircuitPython in that final file, which it's not doing correctly right now. There's also another mode where you could run the updater script to update all of the files that a particular board was based on. So the main challenge there is like given a particular setting, like does it depend, what thing that CircuitPython wants you to be able to set does it depend on? Is it target specific? Is it specific to having PSRAM? Is it specific to PSRAM space and size and things like that? All those sorts of questions. So that's what this updater script is, and it's a kind of a nightmare, nightmare script. But the thing that I've been doing with the IDF 5 update is I'm trying to make it more versatile by actually loading the kconfig setting, the kconfig information itself. So kconfig will say like the default is based on, the default value is based on these other dependent values, or this thing only shows up based on these other values. And that will give me a clue, like, does it mean that it's dependent on PSRAM? Or is it dependent on the target, for example? Those are the main ones. Because ideally, I'd be able to run like this updater script for every board, and it would not change the shared files if it's working correctly. So what does that mean? So maybe we just start where this bug happened. So what we're seeing here is this is like the traversal of the menu system, and it's showing settings. It thinks we care about where they go, and it's printing out like what, or at least it should be printing out kind of where it's going. You can see like here, config UR, ISR, and IRAM is going to board for some reason. And now the question is, why is that the case? why is it going to board? And this is a script I've been working on a lot, so it's got debugging in it, and it's probably just broken. But some of these, like, it should just be obvious that it's the default value, and it should do a check that it doesn't go in the default value. So, like, the camera settings shouldn't end up there because those should be the default for CircuitPython. And update SDKconfig. And I'm really looking forward to this AC that I'm getting in like 2.5 hours, because it's too hot in here. This, like, I use this clock temperature sensor, and it's got the little face on it, and the face is just like, it's too hot. And I agree. It's too hot. It was happy earlier, and now it's not. Just like me. So any questions about kconfig or this config setting stuff? I know it's like, it's definitely like the deep dive part of the deep dive. But so here it's like, if not update all and not matches CP default, or we are updating all, it's in the board settings thing and it doesn't match the ESP default, then we put it. So we just did a not update all, but the CircuitPython default was wrong. Please explain your use of the IDF. Okay, so the IDF is like the SDK that Espressif provides, and we kind of abuse how we use it. So we'll use it to build libraries that encapsulate the Espressif provided code for particular functions, and then we will link CircuitPython against that. So like all the Wi-Fi stack stuff is in the IDF. All of the like drivers for peripherals is in the IDF, that sort of thing. But we don't leverage the IDF to do like the final linking step. We do that ourselves against the CircuitPython objects. So I'm a little bit if it doesn't match the ESP default, or yeah, okay, hopefully that was enough, David. Board. So it goes in the board if it's not update all and not matches. Update all. Let's put that as a thing too. So basically, like everything that's going to end up in board, let's print that out as well. So now we'll do menuconfig again. We actually have to just load it and quit it. Interesting, there it stayed the same. So this could be, one thing that's really nice about, no, it's empty. One thing that's nice about using Git is you can just say like, oh, let's undo that. So there's S2 again. Let's leave that. One of the other main challenges is like for these shared the things that we're trying to make shared, like they may have like some targets may have more settings than others. And like how you manage that is a huge pain. Okay, so we deleted that, and now we see that all of these camera things These camera things are ending up in the board settings even though they shouldn't be, which is weird. So the question is why? And let's actually, not just CP default. So let's just, go here and go print. So temporarily we'll do default. And it probably won't have them again because now they're that's weird. I should make a target that doesn't require us to do menuconfig. See, so this thinks that the default is no for CircuitPython, even though I thought the main file had those. So we ignore boards and we just go to SDKconfig defaults. I thought that, oh, it is not set. So it is correct. This is wrong. I don't know why that got messed up. So let's just go back and see. Ideally where it got messed up. Like some things won't have camera on, but it should at least say that if it's on, then they're enabled. So we have like target defaults, and then we have defaults that are for all of them. I guess it added them, but they're not. It added them as not set. So I would rather do the reverse. So what we can do is instead of menuconfig, we can do the update-all. And that should hopefully change the defaults. See, it just removed it. Yeah, this is kind of like where I've been. I'm like, it's just not a good, it's not a good configuration system. For, like, CircuitPython is weird, right? Like, most of the clients for ESP are going to do a project or two, right? And it's okay for them to have two SDK configs and manually keep them the same. But with CircuitPython, we have how many boards, and we want to make sure that the SDK configs are the same. So this might be a target thing. So let's just take a peek at this ESP camera library and see what their kconfig. So it says default yes, which is why it's being omitted. So if it matches the default, then we won't include it. So maybe that is correct then. It's correct to remove this 2040 megahertz because some of the C chips don't run at 240. So it is actually a target setting. So I kind of want to lean into this being correct, or more correct. This is wrong, because it's not a debug build. So one thing we have to make sure of as well is that I do clean. So let's do a clean, and let's remove. Let's just delete this, discard the S2 changes too. Okay, so we're back in like the current state, and now we'll run it again. Support is not set. Default no. Huh. Right, so this looks more correct. So pcount, RMT, and I2S are all things that not all of the chips have, so it has to be target specific. Same with this CPU frequency and the coprocessor stuff. So I think that is correctly being removed and put in here. So we can see that like all the targets will have the same settings, which is annoying, but like you gotta be imperfect at some point. It's just like, oh, it's really annoying. And then for this S2, like this is the default host name. All of this PSRAM stuff is default. So that's correct as well. So I've done C3, S2, S3, and I think I've done ESP32 as well. So let's just do a let's do another board and see what happens. Let's do this S2 reverse T with T. S2 reverse. So we're going to clean it. We're going to do the opt build. And we're going to do update all. So this error happens, like this file doesn't exist, and that's because we haven't said what PSRAM it is. So in here, we'll just do copy. So these are like two new settings that we're adding: the PSRAM mode and frequency. Trying to be much more explicit about it, and you can get an idea of what it's set at. So 16, so that's 2 megs. These are standard I/O. So in current CircuitPython for these SDK configs, we're ending up getting all of the default settings in these files. That's annoying. So it's at 40 megahertz, blah, blah, blah. So we're QIO 40 megahertz. And now we'll run it again. It should be able to, oh, I didn't save it. Save, save, save. I do that again. And now we should take a look at how it changed. So we did it in update all mode, but it didn't update the defaults. It didn't update S2. It only deleted everything from the board's SDK config, which is correct because the host name is the same. And all of these PSRAM settings are the same. So that is correct. And I actually want to make another target so I don't have to run menuconfig. And I think maybe I'll just run through all the S2 boards and get them all up to date. So there is this update all SDK configs, and I'm going to do an update board SDKconfig, and then I'll just remove this flag. So let's go down our list of boards. We were doing S2s, so let's pick another S2. We did regular, or we did reverse TFT, now let's do regular TFT, and I think we can do clean and update. Clean, update board, SDKconfig. I think we can do that. Yeah, so again, it doesn't have the PSRAM setting, which I think is good. I like having this mpconfigboard.mk be very explicit about those settings rather than this jumbled mess. And once again, I think we would just expect it to delete everything. So we've added that, it's deleted everything. These things haven't changed. Like, this is reasonable. It doesn't have all that extra stuff in it. Okay, so that's right. Let's go down the lists. TFT back, no PSRAM. This is weird. Why doesn't this have any other files in it? It's only got SDKconfig. Maybe that's a problem with my branch. Maybe I don't have the latest version of the code. So I'm just gonna pull up GitHub. Maybe it's lingering from a previous branch I had in this folder open or something. Ports, expressive, boards. There's definitely new boards that I don't have. S2, yeah, see, that board doesn't exist here. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, I'm gonna skip over it. So these are S3 boards, Huzzah 32. Funhouse is S2, so let's do Funhouse. And no PSRAM. Although this says it has PSRAM. Oh, there's the setting. Do I have it in my paste buffer still? Yes, I do. So it's also configured to be at 40. There's nothing else special in here. So we'll update that as well. And it deleted everything. Yeah. Okay. Mag tag is an S2. So do the same thing here. And again, this 40 megahertz is probably okay as 80. We could double the RAM access speed. And that's something I want to do with 9.0 so that we can find problems with it. So we're basically being too safe, or potentially safer than we need to be. S3, Metro S2. Looks like it has it. Oh, it's marked as flash. That's not right. Any questions? This is not super exciting stuff to watch, I imagine. Me going through and updating this. But I think I got the script. The script looks to be working pretty well. One of the tricks that I had with the script is that one way the possible settings changes is by you basically include different kconfig files, but you can use variables in the path name. So you could include a target specific kconfig, and kconfiglib has a thing that you can ask, like, what does it reference? So basically, what does it depend on? And the referenced thing doesn't include the variables that were used in the file name to import it, which is sad and confusing and something I had to work around. Okay, so we do have some questions. So Tyeth asks, how do you know what the correct option to pick for defaults for your S2 SDK-config default file are? Just copy an IDF example or guess/try and see. Basically, my goal is to carry through the settings that we had from the previous version. Generally, we use the defaults, but there are a few places where we don't. Like the things we're seeing here about suppressing warning errors. Like that's a 4 to 5 conversion thing that by default they want to warn you, and by default we don't want to see the warnings. It's a warning that you're using like old APIs, and like we do want to use newer APIs, but we don't necessarily want to gate all of the IDF5 updates on that. So for now we just turn the warnings off. So generally, I think my process is, and what I've been doing is like I do one board with a specific target. I run the update-all version of the script that takes the existing settings, converts them to IDF5 via the IDF machinery. It gets back an SDK-config file, and then the script takes that SDK-config file and like spits it back into the CircuitPython ones. So you do like one board per target of that update, and now you do what I'm doing, which is like for every board, basically just like go in and update the board's version of the SDK config based on the settings, the global settings you got from one board of a particular target. Beata says, following along with my ears. Thank you. But yeah, it's kind of a pain. So QtPy again. And it's running at 40, 2 megs. QtPy ESP32. Yeah, so basically I'm trying not to change the settings. David says, yeah, so you plan the speed optimization in CircuitPython version 9. Yeah, my goal is to be bold in the settings that I do in this merge, which means it might break some people. So like for all of this boards that say 40 megahertz, just bump it up to 80 and see which ones don't work. And if there's really like reasons that we want to backport it to 8.2, we could, but like I'm also being bold in disabling a lot of the cryptography modes that the TLS library uses because it saves space. So we may find that certain things don't work as well in 9.0 as well. So I'm using 9.0 as an opportunity to try to like get less stability, but be more aggressive as a result. So okay, QtPy is updated, and it deleted everything again, which is kind of what I'm going for. So that's an S2, S3, C3, C3. This one's a regular one. This board, the ArtiSense RD, is also an S2 at 40 on the standard pins. See, they have a different host name, so we should make sure that that stays there when we run it. So let's see. That's what it is. Taya says, I'm feeling slow tonight. I see you get the target specific defaults by running menuconfig using ESP IDF, aka update-board-sdkconfig script. So it actually runs like the IDF's menuconfig, and then the update-board-sdkconfig script runs after that. So the menuconfig will produce like an SDK-config file that includes all of the settings, and then the updater reads that file and spits it back out into the files that we actually check in. Okay, so we load that file again, and look, it disappeared that one setting, which is bad. It should have said like, oh, that's not a default setting. Let's leave it in that file, and it didn't do that, which is not what it should do, unfortunately. So basically what we could do is we could say like, no, that was wrong. We discard it. We're gonna want to run it again. But let's take a quick glance into this debug output. So we're looking for that the host name setting. We can see that the circuit Python default was the same. Oh, interesting. So this is the problem, is that our CircuitPython default computation is including the board file, which it shouldn't be doing, because we want to put the custom stuff from the board file back here. We want to say that's not the default for CircuitPython. So let's take a look at the script. Update SDK config. So we have the CP kconfig defaults. This is a new thing, or at least the way that this is working is new. So we're now using this like kconfiglib. So you load kconfig path, and then SDK configs. So we don't include the board file. So the board may have custom overrides. So this is all new. We're being a lot smarter because we're in this new version of the script, because we're actually using kconfiglib. So this kconfig path is the thing that loads the metadata about what the options are, and then this load config loads all the settings from the SDK config files. So now if we run it again, our script will no longer use the board as part of the defaults. So here we see the default is expressive, but the setting is this, and then it gets filed into the board file. So if we look here now, our SDK config includes all the headers for like the top level menu stuff down to the bottom, and we can see that it did manage to leave what it should. The rest of these are all defaults, so they do go away, but we're keeping the custom host name, which is great. So let's keep going through more S2 boards. So this AT Mega 0 ESP32 S2. And I could write a script for this. But I'm like still catching problems and fixing stuff. So this is 8, 8 megs PSRAM, so we need to make sure that it's still going 40. And it must be quad still, so that's still probably right. So let's look at our changes. We added that, and so this is interesting. In the SDKconfig file, it's still including this PSRAM 64. Even though we should have a custom PSRAM file that includes that. So let's just take a quick peek at what is in our SDKconfig PSRAM 8 megs is empty. So that's not right. So let's do an all and see what it does. So now when we look, it added this ESP PSRAM 64. This is a problem because the S2, I think this ESP PSRAM 64 setting is S2 specific, which is really annoying. So like if I ran the update all script with an S3 that doesn't have that setting, it would disappear and break all the S2 settings. But I think this is what I want, because well, all the other things don't have size. And that's kind of why these SPI-RAM settings are different, is that they're in different orders. Because they're inconsistent, the PSRAM settings are per target, but I don't want them to be for CircuitPython. So it's just kind of annoying. And the local host name still ended up there, which is great. The PSRAM setting went away. So that actually looks good too. So many more to go. Maybe what I should do is I could write a script to run me through all these. bpi bit s2. I assume it's an S2, and it doesn't have its RAM settings. Which is fine. They're at 40 still. Wait. Okay. So we'll update that as well. Did I do update all? I think I did. I generally don't want to run update all because it shouldn't need to. But we'll double check it. It shouldn't need to update the shared ones. These actually look like S3 settings, which is wrong as well. Like the octal mode oct is a S3 thing. I don't think it's an S2 thing. I could be wrong. Brainboard's Neuron is a S3. ESP32. We're just doing S2s right now. Crump space, crump S2. That's what it was. Okay, they don't have the default settings. Okay, so it's gonna have a custom thing again. But you see how these are, like the SDK configs are getting cleaned up, which is quite nice. Yeah, so now it's just got the thing. So that's right. Down the list. C3, S2. Denny Denny AP Mini. Gotta run Ham's Lab. See you next week. Thanks a lot. Hopefully it'll be less shiny when I have an AC in here. Hopefully it works out. Buying it used. Okay, so let's take a look. That looks okay. Oh, and it doesn't have PSRAM. V2 is also an S2, but it has PSRAM. Oh, see, this says it does have PSRAM, but it doesn't have a setting for it. I wonder if that's true for this one. Is that true for the first one? No. All right, any last questions before we wrap up here? Paste flash, not PSRAM. Oh, thank you. It did. Did crash at some point. You were actually paying attention, David. David, I think you're paying attention more than I am at this point. Electronic cats, fast Wi-Fi. This should just get deleted. Yep. S3 ink. That's because I have to concentrate. You have to concentrate more than me. Maybe you should be doing the stream. To be fair, it's partly the heat. Dev kit C. 1 and 4. And it too should just be, oh no, it's got a custom name. That's correct. But I understand the process of having to do inits manually before writing the script to automate. Now you have to have test data to compare it to see if your automation script will work. Yes. I probably won't. I may just do it manually. But at least I'll do the .mk files correctly, because sometimes the settings are mismatched between sometimes like the flash settings are mismatched between the SDKconfig and the CircuitPython config stuff. So I think it might be one of those tasks that's just like turn on some music and do it sort of thing. I like this cleanup though, where we're deleting most of this stuff. It's a sign of a good change. 8 R2. But yeah, I'm pretty sure most of these can be run at 80 megahertz. I could write a script and just go over it. That's probably what I should do. Fire engine. My window is open, so it's loud. Siren is on my end. Oh, and they pulled up right outside. Or they're going by right outside. These are all S3s. HMI dev kit, I think it's an S2. I actually have one of those, that's why I know. Fault name, 40 megs. Same. All right, let's wrap up. It's a little early, but I'm hot and need a snack. And there's no questions. All right, I'll switch cameras. Thank you all for joining me on Box Week. It's probably not the last Box Week, let's be real. My name is Scott. If you didn't catch me at the beginning, I go by Tan Newt online. I work for Adafruit on CircuitPython. If you want to support me, you can do that by supporting Adafruit by going to adafruit.com, purchasing lots of fun gadgets there for different projects you have in mind. If you don't know what to do or don't know what you want to work on, learn.adafruit.com has great tutorials and will link you out to all of the products that you need to build something. So if you need some more ideas, check that out. CircuitPython, try it out, circuitpython.org. It's an open source version of Python designed to run on microcontrollers and be easy for beginners. So take a look at that if that is interesting to you. I assume if you're watching it is. Keep an eye out for CircuitPython 9 updates. IDF 5 is not blocking any Alpha 9 releases, but Dan is working on the 120 merge of MicroPython, which CircuitPython is based on, and that will change the MPY format. So we're not doing any Alpha 9.0s until that is merged in, and we've settled on an MPY version for CircuitPython 9. I should be around next week to stream, I think. If not, I'll see if Foamy Guy wants to fill in for me as well. But yeah, if you end up ordering boxes, let me know. I did the write-up. You can go to adafruit-playground.com, and there's a list of shared ones, and I think it shows up on there. I also dropped it in the chats earlier. I would love to know if anybody else is adopting that. I think I'm pretty excited. I'm unreasonably excited about it, I think. Otherwise, I'm going to keep working on this IDF update, this kconfig update, and have a great weekend, everyone. I have no cats to pet, but yeah, have a great time. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on the Discord, which you can join by adafru.it/discord.